hearing people saying, yeah, they practice the transitions. Well, I haven't got a nice garage or something like that to practice in, but it made me think that the challenge was actually being wet as well, trying to put on extra layers because it was cold, the things stuck over my head. And I thought, well, I'm actually wet every day coming out of the shower. So what about using that as a training point every day? So I could have my bike shoes and other bits of paraphernalia in the bathroom, come out of the shower and just practice that with a stopwatch.
Welcome to the show, Hilary. You are amazing. You've been recommended to me as a guest, and you are a champion triathlete for Team GB. Now, there's little asterisks and things for that, but describe to people like your whole journey and how you won a gold medal.
In the European Championship last year, yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, first of all, a pleasure to be on the show. Thanks very much, Tim. And so yeah, quick resume on my triathlon journey. I've always liked physical challenges. That's something, and I've always liked to be fit. But I've never done competitive sport until mid-50s, and I decide, just because it seemed like a good idea, let's do a triathlon. And my attitude was very much finish, don't be last. Let's do it. Have a bit of a good time, which I did. So 2016 was first event. Thank goodness I didn't go for an Ironman straight away because I realised it was a little bit harder than I'd imagined. So yeah, good wake up call. And I then the next year gearing up to do a next from sprint to a standard Olympic distance. I managed to have a massive Achilles injury, which long story I won't go into, but summary, old injury from tennis many years ago, stupid fall off the bike, my fault. And I think arrogantly, I thought, well, I don't need any of this gym stuff. I'm doing my cycling, my running and so on, not appreciating that muscles are actually deteriorating year on year as you get older. So the end result was I actually had to have the tendon replaced. I was really scared that I might not be able to walk properly again. And so whatever the physio at the hospital said, I took copious notes and I did religiously the exercises. In total, it was 18 months recovery. I did, so September 18, I did first standard event and post-injury. Finish, don't be last, no damage. Those were my criteria for that. Didn't want to wreck the leg again. Achieved, woohoo. Carried on with the same exercises, also upgraded the bike. 2019, I finished first in my age group in a couple of events. These were local events, but I was like, wow, that's unbelievable. And then I started to hear about Team GB, age group teams, international events. I didn't know any of that sort of thing existed at all. And let alone it, just the thought that I might be able to qualify for that, it just seemed so outrageous, really. But I did a bit of work on the internet and I could see from the times I was around 3 hours 10, I needed to take half an hour or so off that to be competitive, which is, is a chunk of time. But I set to, in terms of getting a trainer, that's evolved. I mean, the swimming I was already working on because I recognized that was difficult. But, I've worked on the other pieces and cut a long story short, in 2021, I did my first qualification event, made it through, competed in 2022. And last year, I've podiumed every time. This is in the European and World Championships. And so last year I did a notch better in each one of them, picking up gold medal in the European Championship and silver in the World Championship. Going again this year, I'm working hard to be, I love to win, but I'm also realistic that there are always new people coming in. You don't know who's going to be on the start line. All I can control is myself being in the best condition that I can. So, I'm aiming for all sorts of improvements and we'll see whether that's good enough, where I actually end up. But I enjoy that process of just pushing myself, really.
So let's rewind a bit. And this is my fault for fluffing the intro a little bit. But What category did you? So in effect, you are the best triathlete in Europe, at least on that day, who competed.
Yeah.
What age group were you in? And the other question, which I suppose is obvious, I mean, a lot of people would know, but what exactly is a triathlon? What does it involve in terms of
Okay,
event?
so first of all, in terms of the age group that I'm in and still competing in, they're in
Yeah.
5-year bands all the way up. So I'm in 60 to 64
Oh,
group.
okay. Yeah.
And yeah, the oldest group so far that I've seen is 80 to 84. And that's
Mhm.
really inspiring when you see people
Yeah.
another 20 years. And I tell you, they don't look like they're in their 80s. So that's there. And triathlon, the all triathlons are a combination of swim, bike, and run, always
Yeah.
in that order. And the distance that I do, the Olympic or standard distance, typically is 1500-meter swim, 40k bike, and
Yeah.
10k run. So in old units, it's just under a mile swim, about 25-mile bike, and 6-mile run.
Yeah. And I mean, one of the things that like I found interesting, you did a TED talk. So for anybody who doesn't know what TED talk is, it's one of they're quite like high profile, like little lectures people do for like, is it like 10 minutes or 15 minutes? Something like that?
Just maximum 18. I was just under 18 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things I found fascinating was that you worked out, and I like this because I'm the kind of process guy, and I think you were from a process
Yeah.
background as well,
It's
but you
engineering.
worked out
Yes.
that one of the big ways that you could save time was those transitions from from swimming to cycling and cycling to running. And
Yeah.
you mentioned one specific case, I think it was from swimming to running,
Yeah.
and you did something in the bathroom, and
Well,
it's pretty clean. Let's be clear about
yes.
that.
Yeah. No. Well, it came out of, and then my TED talk was around
Yeah,
adversity and creativity through adversity was the overall theme of the day. So that made me think about the different incidents. And this particular one, actually, was this first race back after
yeah,
injury, and come out from the swim. It my change, the transition between the swim and the bike was well, I described on the TED call, good northern expression, a shed
yeah,
collapse. And
yeah,
I was about twice the time that other people were. I think it was about 15 minutes because everything went wrong. I'd got no feeling in my hands. Coming out cold from the swim. I couldn't get struggled to get the wetsuit off. I couldn't tie my shoelaces or get my helmet on. Everything, it was a mess. I got through it and I achieved my objectives. I wasn't last and I finished and
yeah,
the leg was still intact. But what it made me think was there's got to be a better way. And yeah, hearing people saying, yeah, they practice the transitions. Well, I haven't got a nice garage or something like that to practice in,
yeah,
but it made me think that the challenge was actually being wet as well, trying to put on extra layers because it was cold, the things stuck over my head. And I thought, well, I'm actually wet every day coming out of the shower. So what about using that as a training point every day? So I could have my bike shoes and other bits of paraphernalia in the bathroom, come out of the shower and just practice that with a stopwatch, the two main, at least the main parts of the transition. And so that's what I did. And it was interesting. I was in an event a couple of weekends ago. I still had some issues. Yeah, sometimes the tongue on the running shoes gets a bit caught, so I've still got things to work on. But what I've noticed is that even if things go wrong, I'm that much calmer because it's like, okay, I know if that
yeah,
happens, it might be a couple of second impact or whatever. But I suppose the breakthrough was thinking about something that I'm doing already every day. I could just add on a little piece to. I was achieving what I needed to without, and probably better than practicing, on a Saturday afternoon in the garage because I was doing
yeah,
it every day. But I wasn't, it takes me, if things go well, kind of 20 seconds for each transition. So really less than a minute of time, I've got my practice daily for the particularly crucial elements. And even something today, something I'm still working on is being able to push the bike. You see people just holding the saddle and pushing it along.
yeah,
And I was coming over Anyone in London knowing Hammersmith Bridge, it's you've got to walk your bike over there. Well, I'm thinking, well, no, I can use that as a transition practice there. So I'm pushing my bike running over the bridge. So I look for situations where I could use that as a training. And I think you don't have to be doing triathlon, anything you're doing. If you've broken down in terms of what do I need to get good at here, some tiny little element, how can I build that into something that I'm doing anyway, that I'm getting the practice at minimal expense. So I think I know I'm very obsessed with use of time, but that's one way it manifests, hopefully as a benefit.
Okay, so let's use your time wisely here to talk about your, because you're not just I'm not just here to talk to you as a triathlete, age group Team GB champion, but you are also a coach to people, and presumably that comes, like, lots of the lessons you've learned from the triathlon side, you help people apply in the business. So talk a little bit about that, and how you have you been doing that? Were you doing that before you did the triathlon and stuff, or
We're
did you
doing
do
it,
it because of it? Yeah.
Yeah, I was doing business consulting. I've worked with small companies actually
Yeah.
most of the last 20 years in one form or another. I guess I'm a make it happen sort of person, so I'm
Yeah.
prepared, sleeves up, and whether it's startup, scale up, or sell out. I've been through different phases. But actually, the triathlon story, when I was telling that to people, I got a very consistent response that, wow, that's really inspiring. And I've been around the speaking area for some time, but I hadn't got something that was really landing. And I thought, I've got something here that I can work with. And what I've done, because I've really gobsmacked myself with going from, say, this low-level amateur to podiums at the World Championships, and I've worked with someone who's helped tease out the process of how I've done that. And I've got a very simple 3-step model: there's motivation, action, and progress measures. So I'm calling it the MAP process.
We have to do that now, don't we?
Yeah, you've got to have a process.
Yeah.
So and I don't claim it's rocket science, but hopefully I've got the examples, and I've got all the business examples from different situations as well, that I think this is something, well, I know it's something that can be applied. It's not just about triathlon, it can be applied to whatever you want to do. If you want to get better at something, the motivation is about, you've got to care enough. It's got to be important to you. So I think the flip for me with the triathlon was about fear that I wouldn't walk properly. It was that injury that was really the thing that pushed me up. Having got through, I'm now motivated because I want to take 4 minutes off my time to get in the chance, depending on who else is in the World Championship. But that's the sort of level of improvement I'm after. So I've now focused on, I've got more probably positive motivation for that. But yeah, actions, you hear, I get sometimes people, when I talk about the sport, people say, oh, it's all about mindset. Well, yes, there is mindset, but perhaps it's mindset about being able, having the discipline to do things. And also, you can't just sit on a sofa with a cold towel around your head thinking, right, I'm gonna win the race tomorrow. It's about the preparation. It's doing, whether for me, park runs, 10K runs, time trial events on the bike, or the swimming. It's working on those things, doing strength work. And I continually look at, okay, how can I improve my training program? And I work with specialists in the different areas. So yeah, and then it's measuring, what happened, what progress I'm making. Hope you are making progress. And sport is very measurable, so I think it's very tangible on whether you're moving in the right direction. If you're not, then what do you want to do about that? And I think that's the thing I found for me, it's motivating. It could be discouraging in terms of, well, there are times, to be honest, when I've got discouraged. Say with the swimming, I put a lot of work into it. And you think, well, I'm not getting faster at this. So I go to some places where you swim in a tank, the water moves, you're stationary, effectively you're swimming like hell, and you're getting videoed from all the different directions. And it's, again, it can be discouraging or motivating and saying, well, I know why I'm not going faster, because I'm not doing it right. And you think, oh, Muppet, you think what you think you're doing right, actually it's not right enough. And the swimming, in my opinion, is very, very pernickety if you're not doing it quite right. You imagine the resistance of water. You try
Yeah.
walking through a swimming pool, so it's hard work. So if you've got some bit of you that's not quite as streamlined as it could be, you're going to slow down. The aero position on the bike is something else, where the faster you go, if there's bits of you that's not quite or sticking out more than they should be, you're going to slow down. And it's then having the mobility and other things to hold a tight position for the time, and still get power out. So it's I don't know if that makes sense. It's you've got to be you've got to care about what you're doing. You've got to actually do something, figure out what happened as a consequence. Is it working? Is it not? If it's not, what do you want to do about that? And if you don't know, we'll go find someone else that does and can help you.
Yeah. Okay. So one of the things you mentioned, like about people making excuses, and you wanted to talk about, like, what are valid excuses for somebody to say, like, obviously my leg's broken, I'm not going to be doing triathlete, and what are some invalid excuses, and like when should people be saying to themselves, I'm just making excuses, I could do this, or is it a case of they should try, and if they can't consistently fail doing something, then obviously they shouldn't be doing it? But I think a lot of people just use
I think
excuses to try.
I give the example of running and doing training. It's very, I'll be honest, I don't relish the thought of going out when it's cold and wet. And there are times with the weather wonderful weather we've had in the UK where I have got absolutely soaked. And I was thinking, oh, do I really need to go out? Well, I suppose the way I've got things set up, quite often on a Saturday, during the winter, spring, I've been doing some sort of run, if it's a park run or a 10K run, something. Now that means if I want to do other training, I want to have the Friday run free, because I want to be recovering to be in the best position for the Saturday. So that means if I'm scheduled to do hill reps or something like that on a Thursday night, then I'm going to have to do them, because if I don't do them the Thursday, I can't do them the Friday, I'm doing the race, I've kind of missed a week. So that for me works in terms of having a schedule of events that keeps me on the straight and narrow and actually makes me man up. If the weather's a bit icky, it's like, you know what, do it. I find the same on the bike. And I notice some people from the club, they've got other options. They've got turbo trainers indoors and so on. So if the weather's bad, they'll hit that. I don't have that. I haven't got space for that. So unless it's ridiculous weather. So I think that's where, is it a valid excuse? If it's really icy and deep snow, then probably heading out on a bike is not going to be a great plan. But otherwise, I think if I feel really tired and like I'm sickening for something, then I'll be very cautious. And there might be times where I think, you know what, I'm not going to go out tonight. But what I've noticed, and this happened during lockdown, again, there were times I think I don't feel a bit tired, not really sure. I've got a standard warm-up routine, again, learning from my injury, 5-minute brisk walk, 20-minute gentle jog, and then I start doing the real work. And what I almost always find is that even if I feel pretty rubbish before going out, by the time I've done my walk in the 20 minutes, actually I've perked up and think, oh, I'm ready for something now. And I surprise myself in terms of, oh, that's interesting. So I think having done that, I'm now much more open to the feeling. If I don't feel quite brilliant, you'll be fine. It'll be all right. And on the odd occasions, I can't even think of one occasion where it's not, because if I felt really not good, then I won't go out. I think the other thing with injury is interesting. I mean, I've had a few little falls off the bike. One actually where I'm very lucky, almost damaged my shoulder. My fault. Skidded on a drain cover in the wet. And fortunately didn't break anything, and I'm pretty much back. But I think injuries, one of the other topics I speak on is overcoming overwhelm, and my first point on that is about listening to the body. I think the body tells you. So for me, you know, maybe I was just a bit distracted. I'd got a bit complacent, and I think injuries and illness, there's something going on there that might be worth investigating. So it might be a valid excuse for saying, actually, I really can't do anything right now. However, what's behind that? Because if you're getting sick with colds or things like that, it's, to me, my interpretation is I'm not looking after myself, that, you know, whether it's nutrition or sleep, that my immune system isn't functioning as well as it might. So that's my take on it. If there's something, if I get sick or injuries of some sort, it's like, okay, that's my body's telling me something there. So there's always something you can take out in terms of an action.
Yeah. Okay. I was wondering, actually, when you were talking about, like, you've got various competitors and people who've got like internal machines and things, and they don't have to go out, but actually the fact that you have to go out and train outside possibly gives you an advantage. Like if there's a triathlon like the European or the World Triathlon and that's in the middle of a rainstorm, if you're up against somebody from California who's never competed in the rain before, that's probably going to give you an advantage. Is that something you've noticed over the years?
Absolutely. I mean, I had one I did at Tunbridge in the first Maybank holiday. The swim was in a swimming pool, 800 meters. Okay, and as we were setting up the bikes and so on, it was drizzling, but I knew the forecast wasn't great. Come out in the swim, it was torrential rain. I had extra bits of kit prepped because the air temperature is quite cold. I'm not great in the cold. I get rhinos and my hands go cold very, very quickly. So I'd got gloves. I thought I'm going to take more time in the transition to put gloves, put an extra layer, put a waterproof on, and even covers on the shoes, because it was a slightly longer bike course, 50k.
Yeah.
And my God, I think I did that, because even so, I lost my hands after the first lap. I was losing the feeling in the hands, but I was able to do it. I was able to get the gloves off using my teeth at the end, because I just had no feeling. I thought I was going to have to run with the helmet on, but I did think this is why I train in the wet, because you can't control what the weather's going to be like on race day. And last weekend I was doing one at Eastbourne. The swim actually got cancelled, so there was a 5k run in place of that because it was quite windy and too rough. You know, they just, from a safety point of view, it wasn't going to work. But on the bike, it was really windy, so being able to control the bike in windy conditions, that the first time I did take it a bit cautiously, because again, I suppose I work on the basis that I'd rather be safe and alive to do it the next time. If I've sacrificed a bit of time, maybe not quite as good, I'd rather, that's my judgment. So I think it's interesting to see the professional sports people, a lot of injuries and so on. I think probably the older you get as well, working hard to stay injury free becomes a big, or at least manage things. And we can all have little tweaks, where the weaknesses are, so it's about being able to react quickly. And that's why I like working with people that really understand the biomechanics. So if I have got a slight tweak, it's adjusting the program and what we do, to correct things as quickly as possible. You don't do damage. And I think that applies to business as well. It's interesting, this whole idea of strength and conditioning, that talking with people thinking about startups, who people have startup business, the temptation is to grow like crazy, and obviously you need to grow and go. But if you go without having some of the frameworks and the basics, so again, engineering, having good processes in place, you're setting yourself up for risks and potential falls. So I think the sporting world does cut across to the business quite well in that area as well, that it's building that strength in the business, that you've got that stability, something that platform to build on to go forward.
Okay, well, let's take that business triathlon thing and let's talk about, because this is something I've been guilty of a little bit. I know other people massively guilty. They'll buy like software and CRMs and like email things, and they'll buy lots of stuff. With your triathlon journey, presumably you had the same temptation with like getting a carbon fiber bike or something. I don't know what there's probably like stupidly expensive wetsuits you can at. What has been your experience like with that? Because yes, if you get to a certain level, you do need that equipment. But were you starting off with like just simple trainers and things, and then moving up?
Yeah, definitely. When I started, I had the bike I used was the bike still got Doors Super Galaxy. I bought that as a
Yeah,
student second hand, which is obviously more than a couple of years ago. Heavy bike, not ideal, but it got me round. It was good enough. And my thinking was, I don't know whether I'm going to like this triathlon stuff. Do I
yeah,
want to do it? But for the first few years, and then having had the injury, even after the injury, I was using that bike. I then did upgrade to a carbon fiber bike. I thought, yeah, I like this.
yeah,
You know, I'm ready to do it. Wetsuit, I got the cheapest one that I could. I think if people are trying to get in the sport, there are ex demo wetsuits. There are various places you can go to get cheap wetsuits. So I'd be very much on the basis. I've seen people on mountain bikes. I think there was even someone in a folding bike in a race I did recently. You
yeah,
don't need the fancy kit to start with. I think obviously as you get better and you're trying to look for those marginal gains, it does become more important. But I think again, I remember one chap who was really into the triathlon, and he was practicing this business of putting the top people will put their shoes on the bike, so that when they're changing from the swim to the
yeah,
bike, they're running in bare feet. And if you're an Alistair Brownlee or someone like that, you know, one flying leap at the bike and they're on and their
yeah.
feet are in the shoes, and it's, but what you don't know is how many times they've had to practice that and how many times they've
Mm,
fallen off to perfect that. And you know, this one guy was talking about, oh yeah, I'm going to working all this out. And I thought, you know what, from my perspective, I'm better off focusing the time on either basic cycling or strength work or mobility work. That's going to have more of a benefit for me right now. I don't say there'll never be a point where I think, no, actually now it would really benefit for me to work on that. But I think that's, yeah, it's about prioritization. And again, when I talk about the overcome overwhelm, I think it's very easy on anything you do to suddenly think, oh my god, your head's full of all these things you can do. The thing I advocate is doing a mind map and just getting all of the thoughts and ideas onto a big piece of paper, and sitting down reviewing it with a cup of tea or coffee and highlighting, you know, what are the things that you really need to do, what would really make a difference. Or if you're in a work situation, you know, if you didn't do something, would the world really stop?
yeah,
Probably not. And boil it down then into sort of tiny chunks, maybe even just 5 minutes a day, doing something that's going to make tomorrow better. So in a way, what I was talking about with the transition practice, that was less than 5 minutes a day,
yeah.
but consistently, that was, you know, that's made me better at it. So yeah.
Okay. Well, um, I presume there's something that maybe this does apply to business. It depends on what the business is, but one thing I guess that's fairly unique about triathlon is that the courses vary a lot, don't they? I guess it's not like a standard like running track you run round or anything like that. It's sometimes there's like you swimming in the sea, and sometimes it's a river. How much thought and preparation do you do, research do you do into each event before it happens?
It's for the big events. So I'm talking about the
Yeah,
European and the World Championships. You know, be out there typically 2 or 3 days beforehand,
yeah,
and definitely doing recce's of the bike course, the run. You can't always go on the particular swim area, but at least, you know, you walk around it and you can kind of get a sense of it. For the smaller, more local events, I guess you always have the route information before, so I will study that, you know, the day before, if not
yeah,
earlier. I do quite a lot of bike time trials. I'm a bit old school with maps. I love my OS maps. So I'll have typically printed those out or
yeah,
look at it on the iPad and kind of just have a good idea of what the route is. Because I mean, they're always signed and there's marshals and so on, but you want to have some idea of what's coming, where there are big hills. I mean, this one at Eastbourne was going over Beachy Head and back
yeah,
on a couple of laps. So I knew that was going to be a bit tough. So a bit this psychologically, you know roughly what to expect and how to pace yourself. So yeah, a bit of work depending on the importance of the event, or do more.
Okay, so let's finish off. Right, what's next for you? And also, how can people, if they've watched this and they think, oh, we want to get Hilary in as a speaker, or they want to use you as a consultant, or they're interested in triathlon, let's say maybe that's the case. How can people find out about you and what's next?
Yeah, if I've got a website, hilarybriggs.co.uk, Hilary with one L. Yeah, there's contact details on there. Mobile number 07930 381 827. You can find me on LinkedIn. Please do connect. And really up for conversations and helping people, whether it's business or personally. You know, I'm into 90-day action plans, and if people are either overwhelmed or not making the progress they want, love to work with people to get them into action, moving. Now, I've got a couple of people I'm working with at the moment that are actually going through transitions because they've been made redundant. So, you know, I'm open to work with people on whatever level. Happy to have a chat, happy to share experience on triathlon. It's a great way. And even if people just start doing park runs, I think that's such a fabulous organization. Get out, be active. You'll feel better. It's a great thing.
Okay, and when's the next European or World Championship that you're taking part?
The next big event I got is the European Championships, which will be in Vichy in France in September, and the World Championships this year are in Torremolinos in Spain in October. So yeah, I'm working away to get in the best shape for those.
And fingers crossed, you'll win gold in both of them. So
I will certainly be doing my best, and I think that's you know what I'm focused on, is getting to the start line in the best position I can be, and executing on the race as best I can. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah, and thanks so much for being the guest today, Hilary.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay.
This is what God requires.